A family feud between two plantations in the Deep South led to the creation of the biggest house ever built in Louisiana. And though one man arguably won that feud, there was no happy ending for either of them. Hi everyone, Ken here. Hit that subscribe button and let's explore this house. In 1804, John Andrews was born in Virginia, and like many ambitious young men of his generation, he looked south and west for his fortune. The Old Dominion had been the cradle of American tobacco wealth, but by the 1820s, the soil was tired and the real money in American agriculture was shifting to the Deep South, to cotton, and in one very specific slice of Louisiana, to sugar. Andrews set his sight on that slice. He did not arrive alone. He arrived with his father-in-law, a determined man named Christopher Adams, and with his young wife, Penelope Lynch Adams. The three of them turned up in Iberville Parish in the 1820s and 1830s, fully prepared to buy land, plant sugarcane, and join the local planter aristocracy. Sometime in the 1830s, Andrew went into partnership with a local physician named Dr. John Philip Reed Stone, and together they acquired the land that would become Belle Grove. Louisiana sugar in the 1840s and 1850s was an industrial enterprise in everything but name. It required enormous capital, enormous acreage, and in the brutal reality of the antebellum South, enormous amounts of forced labor. Andrews had all three. He eventually controlled more than 7,000 acres spread across several plantations, with Belle Grove itself occupying roughly 2,100 acres and fronting the Mississippi for 3/4 of a mile. By the 1850s, more than 150 enslaved people were working those fields in that mill, and the plantation was turning out more than 500,000 pounds of sugar every year. By 1856, Andrews' cash return for the year was reportedly $97,000, a figure that put him unambiguously in the top echelon of American wealth. However, Andrews was not the only wealthy Virginian transplant trying to build something magnificent in Iberville Parish. A few miles down the river, on a property called Nottoway, was a man named John Hampton Randolph. Randolph was also Virginia-born, also a sugar planter, and also about to commission the largest house he could possibly afford from the hottest architect in New Orleans. What developed between the two men was a rivalry that, true to the extravagant temperature of the region, extended well past the cane fields and into the realm of bricks and mortar. Both men would hire the New Orleans architect. Both men would build in roughly the same hybrid Greek Revival and Italianate style. Both men would try to build the biggest house in the state, and both men would insist, not always quietly, that their house was the finer one. Andrews, as it turned out, was going to win the size contest. Whether he won the beauty contest is up to you. The architect Andrews chose was Henry Howard, an Irish-born New Orleans-based designer who by the early 1850s had already established himself as the go-to man for Louisiana planters who wanted something grand. The house was constructed between 1852 and 1857, cost approximately $80,000 in materials alone, and when it was finished, there was nothing else like it anywhere on the continent. The scale alone is worth sitting with for a moment. Belle Grove stood 62 feet high, measured 122 feet across the front, ran 190 feet deep, and it contained 75 rooms. The rooms spread across 4 floors, a raised basement a full 12 feet above grade, a main floor, a second story, and a cavernous attic. The entire mass sat on a foundation of massive brick arches, so that even the ground-level service story had the dignity of an open colonnade. The style was the fashionable hybrid of the moment, Greek Revival crossed with the Italianate, and Howard handled the combination with a confidence that most of his peers could not quite pull off. The facade presented 4 enormous Corinthian columns, fluted, commanding, rising 30 feet in the air. Those columns were built of cemented brick like the main walls, but their capitals were something else entirely. Each capital was carved from a solid block of cypress and stood 6 feet tall on its own. And then there was the color. This is the detail that makes most people do a double take, even now. Belle Grove was not white. The great temple front mansions of the antebellum South were almost always white, or some close relative like cream or pale yellow, because white red is classical. Andrews and Howard went a completely different direction. The walls were finished in a soft, dusty lavender pink. According to the Historic American Building Survey field notes, the plaster was applied in layers. First a wash of blue, then pink over the top, then a final wash of lavender, producing a color that shifted depending on the light. The exterior woodwork was painted a yellowish olive green. The window sashes were striped in red. The roof was covered in slates of purple and blue, with rich tiles imported from a manufacturer in Wales. Every surface on the outside of the house was doing something. Belle Grove was completed in 1857. 4 years later, the country went to war with itself. The American Civil War was catastrophic for the Louisiana sugar economy. The entire business model of a plantation like Belle Grove depended on two things: the enslaved labor in the fields and the steady flow of sugar out of the port of New Orleans to markets in the North and in Europe. The war ended the first and severed the second. New Orleans fell to Union forces in April of 1862. Baton Rouge a month later, and Iberville Parish was quickly within the zone of Union occupation. With Union occupation came the practical emancipation of the enslaved population well before the 13th Amendment made it formal law. Without them, the mill could not run at scale. Without a functioning port, the sugar could not reach its markets. The enterprise collapsed. In the late 1860s, he put the property on the market. As he prepared to leave, Andrews gathered up almost all of the furniture from Belle Grove and sent it to a warehouse in New Orleans for safekeeping. Shortly afterward, the warehouse burned down and the furniture was lost. By the 1920s, the next owners had abandoned the house. Louisiana is not a gentle climate for abandoned buildings, and humidity and insects and storms go to work immediately. A roof leak at Belle Grove was allowed to spread, and it destroyed one entire wing of the mansion. Various owners came and went with vague ideas of restoration, but the Great Depression and the Second World War made that sort of project essentially impossible. By the late 1930s, the house was already a ruin, beautiful and photogenic, but structurally failing, and the Historic American Building Survey sent a team in 1938 to document what was left. In 1943, a man named Frederick J. Nerbus bought the house and 17 remaining acres for $2,000, hoping against hope to restore it. He did not get the chance. On the night of March 17, 1952, a fire broke out in the decaying mansion. By morning, the house was gone. What little remained standing was bulldozed in 1958 to make way for a subdivision that still bears the name Belle Grove today. But the story wasn't quite over. There's a final, almost unbearable epilogue to the rivalry that helped launch Belle Grove in the first place. Nottoway, the feuding neighbors' plantation, survived everything Belle Grove did not. It survived the war, Reconstruction, the Mosaic virus, the Great Depression, successive changes of ownership, and conversion into a resort and events venue. It stood on the River Road for 166 years, and then, on May 15, 2025, Nottoway also caught fire and the main house was destroyed. Both of the grand mansions of Iberville Parish, the twin Corinthian showpieces of Henry Howard's career, are now gone. And with that, I'll turn it over to you. What are your thoughts on Belle Grove? Let me know down below in the comments section, and while you're there, make sure you're subscribed so you never miss an exciting episode of This House.